a show that tackles the big issues affecting the BVI and the rest of the Caribbean. Searches for answers to today's big questions and gives viewers a unique perspective on developing stories. Follow the big story with me, Kathy Richards, only on JTV. This show is brought to you by the National Bank of the Virgin Islands, Cyril B. Ramney Tertola Pier Park, NV Salon Spa Nail and Barbershop, the Wellness Center, Medical and Behavioral Health Clinics, Ticely Cross Deliciously Smooth Cider, HOV Medical, and Digicel. Sign up for Digicel Plus Home Light Bundles, faster internet, movies, and sports. Welcome to the big story. I'm Kathy Richards. I want to thank you so much for joining us for this brand new year, the start of 2024 on the big story. I hope that 2023 was fantastic for you and you're thinking and hoping and working towards a fantabulous 2024. Well, today we want to start off on a very, very important topic. You know that we age every day. And with every day and year added to our lives, we have to make certain changes. There are certain changes and you have to work around those to make sure that your life is at its best. Similarly, the climate in which we exist. I want to welcome to the studio Crystal Cognac and Michelle Ambrose, both of the Department of Disaster Management. And ladies, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy
it's
New
good
Year.
to be here.
How are you feeling in this moment? Yes, we made it.
Mm-hmm. It feels like a good fresh start for the new year.
Awesome.
And I'm excited. I look forward to the rest of this year.
Awesome. Great things are going to happen. And some people say for a leap year, bad things happen. I think that's not the truth.
Yeah, I don't believe
so
that.
So many great things that happen during a leap year, but we'll make the best of it and have fun doing so. One of the fun things that we want to make sure that we do is work towards a better climate. Like I said before, we take care of our bodies as we age. We do things to make it better, and so does the climate around us. It needs that attention. So we want to talk about the SMART initiative that we have for school. This is something that has been developed by the Department of Disaster Management. So right on, why this initiative?
I love that you wanted to start with like, why did we start it? Because it's a legacy project, you know.
Okay.
It goes all the way back. I have my little notes here. It goes all the way back to the late 1990s, and in the year 2000 was when they really kicked off doing a concerted effort to say, let us as DDM work together with education and create a strong structure to help the schools be safe and smart and climate resilient, right? Because we know that the nature of natural disasters and just climate hazards in general is changing as climate change advances. So we want to put our schools in the best position to prepare for them. So as the years went on, the Safe School Initiative, it kind of got adopted regionally. The BVI really has been leading in this way, right? Where we're like, okay, safe means the schools are in good structural conditions. Safe means the students and teachers know how to respond to any kind of hazard or disaster. And it also means that we have a healthy and a green environment. So now, with the addition of green, now we have smart schools. So when we talk about smart, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about pulling it all together.
And Michelle, for you, you have been involved with this at different levels.
Yes.
Give us a little background as to what you do in this space when it comes to the SMART initiatives.
Well, in my position as the Planning and Preparedness Manager, working along with Crystal, who is actually more working along with the schools, I assist with coordinating all the efforts, all the partners with this project, and making sure it fits what the funders need us to do in terms of making sure it's aligned with their core responsibilities, their core focuses, and making sure that we achieve these goals that we have set forward here in the SAFE plus green equals smart. I always say that initiative.
Okay, and you mentioned partners. We know one of the partners will be those who receive this initiative, like you said, the schools. But there are some key stakeholders that are attached to this. Let's talk about them and the role they play.
So with the external funding that's provided by Resembid, so we're able to expand the Smart Schools program that we said, it's a legacy project. Now we're expanding it by including these partners. So it's ourselves at DDM. It's always been us working hand in glove with education. But now we are adding Green VI, we're adding the BVI Red Cross, and the HLSCC Center for Applied Marine Sciences.
Okay, we are adding, or they're already added, and why? Why those core stakeholders?
I mean, they've been involved, yes, even at the initial proposal stages when we learned that this funding was available to us as part of the OT countries. That's a part of these funding agencies. We thought that their expertise, along with what we are offering here with the Safe Plus Green equals Smart initiative, each one of them have their own area of expertise, as I said. So Red Cross, they're more working along with us, and especially in the past with our CERT programs, been able to work with us in terms of training the teachers to be able to deal with some of these risks. Then there's Green VI, who is also appealing to the green and the healthier portion of yes. And then there's the Center for Applied Marine Studies. They're helping us with the marine biodiversity bit of it.
Okay. And Crystal, funding, like Michelle would have mentioned, where did we get the funding from, and why was a specific fund needed for this initiative?
Well, that takes back to like a more regional question, because Resembid is basically, they are an establishment of the European Union, and what they've recognized is that small island developing states, in particular the overseas countries and territories in the Caribbean, really need support when it comes to dealing with climate change. If people can go and research Resembid and some of the projects they're supporting, but the idea that they're really coming with is, how can we bring some capacity building where you are, right? So they're looking at a couple of different elements. They're looking at sustainability. They're looking at resilience to disasters and climate change. They're looking at biodiversity. So for us, we're really in that resilience piece. We're trying to make the schools more resilient, and then that's going to make the whole territory more resilient.
And you give some words there, and those are the words that make up Resembid.
Yes.
Resembid stands for resilience,
sustainable energy, marine biodiversity.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's part of it.
It's the acronym. It's the resilience bit that we are using to ensure that our schools are more resilient, and the sustainable energy, not just the energy bit, but the climate change and the environmental concerns and the environmental things that we need to do to make sure that we are stewards of the environment. And then there's the marine biodiversity bit, that not only just the resilience, but we know that our marine life also has a part to play, especially when it comes to our nature and our sustainable energy.
Awesome. What are the main goals, really?
Really, the main goal is to help our schools be stronger and more able to respond to all kinds of hazards, but also more resilient to climate change. And from there, the schools become a hub supporting the entire community. Right? So the schools are more prepared, the teachers are more prepared, but then they go out or they go home and they're really sharing what they learn. They're sharing those hands-on practices, whether it's we have them ducking under tables or whether we have them growing local food,
Or running up hills.
yes, it's almost that time. Soon we'll be doing that
part
too.
of the drills, but what we really want is that they learn some of these things from this young age, some of the things that we're instilling in them from now, and that they can take that into their adult life when they're now adults, and they can take it into their businesses and their communities and their homes. Learning this from now helps them to be more resilient later on in the future.
From young,
From young.
how how young are we talking?
I think we
What
started
level
like
we started
grade. We
school?
started like we start school at grade 1,
Yeah.
kindergarten, grade 1. Yeah, but I think for this project we really just want to start with the little ones, and then we're up to high school ages.
Okay.
So it's the whole primary school level and some of the tertiary level. I mean the secondary level.
Okay, and to a level you would say tertiary as well, because the college is involved as a stakeholder, and I know that they would be implementing and working along with the program at the student level as
Right.
well.
Right.
Okay. But how do we assess and evaluate?
I love that you asked this because it's so in-depth. Like literally when we do our checklists and go out and evaluate the schools, it's a huge stack of points, right? So it's this really in-depth rubric that says, how is the structure of the school? Okay, cool. Now, how are your policies and practices? How is your equipment? Do you have your fire extinguishers? Do you have your disaster plan? Do you have your first aid responder, right? To speak to some of that training that we've spoken about. And then, once we have all that covered, then we come into the environmental questions. What are you doing to reduce your use of resources? Do you use a lot of paper in the classroom, or are you more electronic? Are you encouraging kids to bring their own water bottles, or are they using a lot of disposables? So it's really in-depth and involved when we get into the evaluations.
And how often do we do that?
Once the schools get certified, they get to keep that status for 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, okay, we evaluate every 3 years. But as we have this discussion, one stakeholder that comes to mind, well, I should say a entity that I see would have fit in really well in this would have been the Recovery and Development Agency, RDA. Why? They are involved in a lot of rebuilding and construction, and a part of this initiative talks a lot about how we build, especially schools, and what to keep key structures, because we want to be resilient, we want it to be done as okay, something should happen, this is a safe place to be. And we have it now in a wider range where we not only the 12 or 16 or 25 shelters that may be in the instance of a disaster, but this school is a safe place.
Yes, so there's two things that you're kind of getting at. One is, how safe are the schools, and are we utilizing them as our thing, right?
Yes.
But what we don't want is we don't want to use the schools as, say, for example, an emergency shelter. We want them to be built to that level, and as you know, some of the more recent shelters that have been redeveloped, they're going to SMART standards as well. But what we don't want is to have a set of shelteries in the schools, and then that disrupts the education process, right?
Oh, that would have been after because the process, it takes some amount of time. All right, but where are we right now with this project?
That's a really good question, because we're actually getting close to the end in terms of the funding window, right? But in terms of how far along are we, we've evaluated each and every one of the schools. Well, all the target schools.
All the
so for
target
this
schools.
project, it's 14 public schools that we're targeting.
Oh, okay. Okay. And is there a stage where we widen that?
Well, under this particular expansion, no. But what we really appreciate is that we have some support, basically at all levels. That all the schools are excited to do it, right? So you go and you assist with a drill or a presentation, and you realize, yes, the private schools want to participate. The daycare centers want to participate. So the good thing is that the standard is something that can be utilized by
all the schools.
Okay. And how much money went into this?
I think we've been able to secure 1.3 1.3 million euros
for that. Okay. Was it enough? Do you need more money?
We will always need more, but for this project, I think we We did secure what we could from them because this money is being shared amongst the other OTs.
OTs, okay.
And so with our proposal, we see that we are able to use this funding. And as the project continues, we're finding more places that, hey, we could use a little bit more here, or we can shift funds to this particular need. Because what we do is look at each school individually. We look at them to see what their specific needs are. And each school might need a little bit more than the other school. And we know that the ministry, along with other agencies, might have done some work in some of the schools already. And so they're more further along the assessment list and more further along where we can certify them closer to safe and smart. But some schools might need additional help. And so we can use the funds that we already have to target some of those schools that really need the help.
Okay, along the course, what are some of the key things that you would have learned from interacting with these schools that made you say, hey, you know, we really would have made an impact, whether it be just the SMART initiative or person's personal knowledge about certain things or other agency, but you would have said, hey, we've made, and then what are those things you say, we need to do a little bit more here?
I mean, I want to say that our interactions with the schools have been really good, and we've had initial discussions with with the Ministry of Education first, and the principals, and then we know that the principals have shifted to different schools, and this might have made it a little bit challenging. But what we got, which was really good from each one of the principals, is that, hey, now that I'm here, I would have liked to see this, and we really tried to work with each one of the schools individually. They did really like our greening initiatives, some of them who are much more, I won't say modern, but who are more in the technological age, and they wanted to use more greening activities. The online schooling, we wanted to share more of the resources that they would need to be more resilient. They want training. They like that we're in the schools with them. We're sharing the information with them. So they're on board with us.
Also, from the communication level, Crystal, what are those highs and could do better for you?
The highs are really when I talk to the kids and I hear them telling me back different facts about mosquito eradication, about recycling, about how to respond in an earthquake. These children could lead that same tsunami drill if we let them. You know, they know what to do. So that's really gratifying. In terms of challenges, I think what I wish is that we had a whole army of folks that were devoted to this, you know, because like you said, it's like we can only, for now, we're only targeting the 14 schools. But honestly, in the future, we want to see this expanded and applied in every single daycare, primary, public, private, you know, all the schools.
Even up to tertiary level, yes.
Yeah, and you know what came to mind as we have this discussion, I recall, I think it was just a few days ago, seeing a huge aircraft that crashed in Japan. What was the lesson that you would have learned from that? For me, it was the fact that because they would have been practicing and educating their traveling public, that though you panicked for a moment when all that shifting took place, the moment that the what do you call them on the plane, the attendants start giving the instructions, everyone followed and were able to evacuate within 90 seconds. That saved all of their lives.
Right, that is exactly what we're trying to do here. Having the knowledge. I listen to the stewardess all the time because I'm in this profession where I need to know what to do in the event of emergency. And so them having practice standing, the passengers being 100%, I need to listen to the stewardess because I need to save life. And it's the same thing with schools. The teachers, we would be training the teachers on how to do something similar if there's a risk that actualizes. And the students would now have to be in the same practice. And I want to say this improves that. This project improves that. And we know that if something happens, our children are safe with the schools.
how you felt about that when you would have seen that.
When I saw it, I felt like this is exactly why we do what we do. This is exactly why DDM is talking to folks about having emergency plans, having contingency plans for their businesses. And this is why we do the annual drill exercises, twice a year. We want people to have that muscle memory of practice doing what you do so that if a real emergency happens, you're not going to panic. You're going to follow the instructions, you're going to do what you need to do, and you and your family are going to survive and get through it.
Yes.
You know, one thing that, what I would have heard someone, and it's been a constant conversation when you're doing simulation exercises, you should or should not alert the public that this is just a simulation. When you want the best outcome, it's like, some people would say, don't say a thing, just do it.
Okay, so there's two schools of thought there, right? One is how realistic is people's response, but the other is how safe are the people. So our practice is when we do an exercise, everybody knows it's coming. Carib Wave is not too long off, March 21st. Everybody's going to know it's going to be happening. And when those sirens go off, when you get that alert on your phone app, you're going to know there's not a tsunami coming. Exercise, 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 right? But at the same time, we hope that people will recognize, like, okay, this is a chance for me to practice. Can I do this? Do I have the right shoes? Or, even if you try it out and you realize, wow, this was a mess. What you have done is you've done yourself a huge favor, because now you have a list of saying, wow, I really need to keep a spare pair of flats under my desk in case I need to evacuate in a hurry. Or I really need to have that hard copy of contacts in case my phone battery dies and I need to do a safety check.
And even if you've done the exercise, you would have realized that, hey, if this was really to happen, half of my staff is, I want to say, swallowed.
Yeah.
So businesses and managers really need to take this seriously to make sure that their employee, their human resources are safe.
And the schools,
Take it
and
serious,
that's why
and
you're
schools,
working
yeah,
with
that's why we're with
schools.
schools.
Before we close it off, as part of those simulation exercise, I mean, look, seems as though we move from this, but I think it's all part of the initiative. We do so much on tsunamis and the hurricanes and stuff. But what about earthquakes? We have them so often, but we hear little about simulations and advice on that.
Right. So the annual earthquake exercise, it's not as popular, and it's not, we don't push it out to be like a big national exercise quite the same way. That's shakeout that happens every fall. But what we know from dealing with the schools is that tends to be one of the ones that they practice. Say, for example, if you go on a fourth Friday on system test day down to the pre-primary school, you would see that Principal Welch has the children practicing to do their drop, cover, and hold under their desk, and all those children know to do that. So I think it's out there, but I think because they do happen so frequently, it doesn't tend to stick in our minds quite the same way.
Oh, okay, and it all falls into that SMART initiative, climate resilience.
Right, and just to add, some of that same training, we're going to make sure that we get into all the schools that we're targeting. And the plans that they are, in some cases, developing and revising, we're going to make sure they have all these steps in place, that each of the schools know what to do in the event of each one of these. I don't want to say main hazards, but I want to say anything can happen. The main ones, the hurricane, the tsunami, and the earthquake. Right. So they know what to do in the event, and there's other ones like fire, and there's chemicals and other disasters that they should consider, but these are the main ones that we do focus on. We want to make sure that in their planning, this is captured.
Awesome. Well, in wrapping up, ladies, I think this was a really interesting conversation, and one that I think we should have had from even the beginning of this to pull more, attention to it. But I'm pretty sure that persons would have a great appreciation for this conversation, and it would spark their wanting to be part of it, to be a little more aware, and like I would have likened it onto how we grow and how we age and what the things we need to do to protect us. Part of our protecting us means protecting our climate, environment, and this beautiful thing that we call our planet Earth. What would you like to say to the people as we close out?
I really do hope that people can take what you've said and say, 2024 is a new year, and I want to start it in a place of, resilience. I'm going to resolve, if you do a resolution, to do what I can to, be ready for different hazards.
And for you?
I would say, especially my role, I'm just thinking my role in making sure that we help to let the homes be prepared, the businesses be prepared, and in general communities, in your businesses, in your homes, in your schools, and other institutions. I know we have other institutions that already practice some of these smart practices, but everyone should take it seriously and put things in place that if something happens, this is how we do it. This is how we would move. This is how we would make sure that we have a better chance to survive.
Awesome. And while you were giving the previous comment, you mentioned the fire, which reminded me of the recent disaster that we would have had, where someone would have lost their lives, a family is hurting, friends are hurting. That was a disaster. We want to give our condolences to those persons who are feeling that. And it also reminds us to, be prepared, to do the necessary checks that we need to do. Not to say it wasn't done, but it reminds us, It
reminds us to
and you don't want to feel that pain.
Don't be complacent about it, yes.
All right. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you for joining us for this initial big story recording for 2024. I'm excited and I'm hoping that you are too for this year. Thank you for joining us.
We know that where you choose to bank matters, and it is your vote on what your funds do in strengthening our community. As your official Bank of Paradise, we invest and support the lifeblood of our economy by helping in the realization of personal goals for homeownership, education, and entrepreneurial visions, which support small businesses. We make it our place to connect with persons and worthy causes, and we have been doing so for more than 30 years. Where your money goes and what your dollars empower are your choice. And we thank you for choosing us, a bank that gives where it matters the most, for you, for our community, and a happier tomorrow. The National Bank of the Virgin Islands.
Everyone looks to the future, but no one truly knows what the future holds.
The number of people under the age of 20 with type 2 diabetes could increase by 49% by 2050. Let it be known that we all have a 30% chance of developing hypertension.
Globally, more than 300 million people of all ages suffer from depression.
More than 60,000 young adults aged 20 to 39 are diagnosed with cancer each year. Obesity leads to problems such as stroke, heart disease, and kidney failure.
No matter your race, age, or color, we are all at risk.
These diseases can be managed or prevented if caught early.
But with the right medicine and the right doctors to keep us on a path to live a robust and healthy life,
we will live well.